got a real attitude problem, McFly. You're a slacker.
Now, why would you buy a totally pointless, made in China plastic watch that is almost impossible to use and is difficult to read in certain light conditions and is very basic? Why would you do that? Nostalgia? Yes. Rekindling childhood memories? Definitely. That is why I bought this calculator watch from Casio. It's a modern reissue with a lovely different colourway on it. You can get this in white, blue, a maroony red colour, military style green. How cool is that? I went for blue because one of my favourite colours. And I think it works with this design. But why did I get it? Because I think it's just a bit of fun. It's a great bit of kit that's a bit silly. And I've got it here. It's something you can just slap on your wrist. It's so light, it weighs nothing. And even if you can't use the calculator on it because the buttons are so tiny for our grown-up digits, so right when you're about 8 or 9 years old, you could just about use it quite normally. You don't even notice those kind of problems. When you're an adult with sausage fingers, you think, oh, what is this stupid thing I'm wearing? It's not stupid. It's a bit of fun, and I just love that. It's a Casio bit of charm, and it's more of a fashion watch than anything. For us folk who want to remember the watches that we liked when we were whippersnappers and were just in awe of these gadgety tool watches that did crazy cool things. Like you could do sums on. And I hated maths at school, so what the hell am I doing? So here we have the Casio CA-53W, and what this is paying homage to is itself. Effectively, it's paying homage to the calculator watch from the 80s, and the most famous one that we all like to know about is the one from the good trilogy of films from the 80s, and actually the third film was in 1990, the Back to the Future series, and Marty McFly wore the CA-50 in the Back to the Future films starting in 84. So well, the watch was released in 84 and the film was actually out in 85, but this is a cult classic. It was kind of what launched Casio into making retro cool quirky watches, which are very interesting to people. And here we are, the year 2020. You can get something which is playing a fun little twist on it, and that is what we've got here. I chose this colorway, and you can get this in a few different choices, which I think again is really cool. Rather than sticking with, if you want to go really modern retro vintage, you can get the sort of modern day reissue of the watch from the 80s with all the faithful design cues that you would get. But it's very similar. It's not identical to the watch from the 80s, but it's, I mean, I'm sure if you put them next to each other, you'd see the differences, but they're so close. So what's this one all about? I wanted to get one because I thought it's a bit of fun. I like to have fun with my watches on this channel. That's why I really enjoy homage watches. And this watch only cost me $27.99 with free delivery because I'm an Amazon Prime customer. I got this watch next day for free delivery, which is incredible. So if you're impatient like me and want something quick, that's the beauty of it. So it came obviously in an oversized box, they often do, and inside that box was a load of padding and reinforcement packaging to keep this tiny little Casio box, which weighs next to nothing. It's your bog standard Casio box, and this was what was inside. So what I'm going to do in this video, this review, is I'm going to just run through the dimensions and the weight of this watch, as I do with all my watches. I'm going to run through the features, and I'm going to do a nice little outdoors fun shot. I took this watch out for the day, went for a nice walk, and it's fun to just have a play with this watch. It's one of those watches which I very rarely need to actually use the calculator, especially one this small. I wouldn't use, it's difficult to use. I just love how it looks, and for the cost, it's just so much fun for the money, and that's what this is all about. It's got retro charm. It's kind of pointless, but it's still definitely worth getting, and I think anyone should have a Casio in their collection because there's so much history behind Casio. So let's start. I've already given you a bit of a history lesson behind the model that this is inspired by or heavily linked to. So Gibas is going to help us out with, I'm going to show you how much this very small plastic watch with a 5-year battery life, see how much it weighs. Gosh, so used to these metal watches. 24 grams, same weight as a chocolate bar. Yes, I do reference things to chocolate quite frequently, and let's Let's see how much we're talking about in dimensions here. So, because it's a really cool shape, because it is literally like a little mini calculator on your wrist. It's 34 wide, but the lug to lug is 42.8, so it's compact, and then the height won't include the buttons. It's just over 8 mil, and it actually has an unusual strap design where it gets wider, but it has a standard lug width of 20 millimeters. I'm going to pop this on my wrist to show you how does a tiny little lightweight plastic watch, do you think be for children, fits on a grown man with a 7-inch wrist. Very easily. It's perfect size. It doesn't look too small. It doesn't look like a kid's toy on my wrist. Obviously it's so light you don't even notice it, and there's loads of scope for it to fit people with even a bigger wrist than me, maybe up to 7.5 to 8 inches, and right down, of course, if you've got a smaller wrist. It's more designed to accommodate someone with a smaller wrist, up to maybe a medium wrist like mine. But yeah, it fits very nicely, very comfortable. You don't really notice it on the wrist. So I'll run through the facts and the figures now. This is the reverse display, which it makes it cool because it looks like a stealthy mod. So it almost out of the factory, it's like a modded watch, and that is cool. But the downside, already you can tell it's not good for legibility. It's not very clear in quite a few different light conditions. But I forgive it that because it really just it looks so cool. It's almost just a piece of jewellery, a bit of retro craziness you'd wear on your wrist. So features wise, it's a basic watch effectively, even though these back in the day would be deemed a smartwatch to a certain degree. Maybe the data bank. That was called the CD40. That was actually in 1983. That was the first smartwatch, apparently, because it was like an updated or more complicated version of this type of watch. But the first ever calculator watch was actually the C80, and that was in 1980. And the one that we all know and love is, of course, the CA-50. So there have been other iterations before and around and after that watch. So this is the one that stuck, and I think because of the retro cool of the Back to the Future films. So again, I've talked about the design again because I do appreciate the way they've just managed to give it a fun contemporary twist, but it still has the fun. So I'm going to run through the features. So we start with the date and the time. First press, you've got your calculator. You've got to attempt to press the buttons, make an equation. But if you make a mistake, you press the cancel button again. Press again, then we move on to the beginning again. So if you want to go to any of the other features, you've got to press through the functions again. So we go past the calculator to your alarm. We can set your alarm, turn it on or off, and then press it. And this is where you also can turn the signal on and off. So every hour it beeps or not. Press it again, you go back to another time zone. This DT means dual time. So you can press and hold when you're in any of these submenus for time or alarm setting. You press and hold, it's very difficult, but you press and hold the adjust button till it flashes. And then you scroll through by pressing the big button, and you press the numbers to change the time. So we've got 07 I pressed. It's hard to do this through the camera lens, but there we go. And then you press and hold it again, and you've set your new dual time. And you press it again, we're back to where we are now. And trouble is, if you keep doing that, you miss out remembering that there is another bit of functionality on here. So we go through again, calculator, alarm, dual time, and here's the stopwatch. So you've got start, stop, and then reset there on this side. So start, stop. You can even do laps. So you can press that. Instead of pressing stop, you press that, and that creates a lap. It's just so cool. It's got a reasonable amount of functionality, but it doesn't have any backlight at all. So if you have any poor light conditions, you're not going to be able to see a thing. So let's check this watch out and talk about light conditions. Let's see what it looks like out in the natural light. So what do I like? What do I think they could have improved with this watch? And we'll conclude there really, because I bought this watch because I'm a nostalgic kind of guy, and that's the reason why I like it, because I think for less than £30 it's hard to be too critical for something that is meant to just be a bit of fun. It's costs less than a takeaway. It's something you can enjoy. It's got a 5-year battery life. You just slap it on and it's just something. It can even be a conversation starter. Go, look, it's a modern interpretation of the watch from the Back to the Future films. It's so cool, and it works still. It's a decent, reliable timepiece with accurate timekeeping with a 5-year battery life. It's only splash resistant, but that doesn't matter. It's not that kind of thing. Things that they could have improved would be, still would have liked a backlight of some sort just to help us out a bit. Some illumination that would have been really helpful. And I just think the buttons, even though it's paying strong tribute to the original, and it's just a recased version of a watch they've been making for years anyway, the buttons still are a bit fiddly, but that's not their fault. It's just doing what they've always done. It is a watch at the end of the day with a funny little calculator built in. So do yourself a favour. This is a great Christmas stocking filler for yourself or for a loved one or anyone. This watch would suit a child, male or female. It's one of those things that's cross-generational and works for any person. Really, it's just a good bit of fun. And that's why I wanted to get one in and do a little review. So if you've enjoyed this little review I've done for the Casio CA-53W, do like, do subscribe, and you'll see all my other content. It's been a real pleasure. I'll see you in the next video, which it won't be long. Bye for now.